Welcome to the Unofficial Steelers Podcast, the podcast so unofficial it doesn't have a home. Here's your host, from In Hindsight, Nathan Heintz. From Steelers Nation Australia, Mark Davison. And from State of the Steelers, Daniel J. Here we go.
Oh, welcome everybody back to the channel, to this podcast of the Unofficial Steelers Podcast, everybody. Daniel and I are here. Good to see all you guys here. Jared Devil, Afton, Claude, George. Good to see you guys back in the chat. Those who are tuning in that we don't see in the chat, welcome to the show. Man, we have another victory to talk about. Let us know in the chat what you guys thought about the game. What was it, a feel-good victory for you guys? How do you feel about it? You guys think it was a good overall game? Let us know in the chat. Daniel, another thing to talk about here. Another Steelers game to talk about. But before that, how's it going over there in Texas today?
It's not too bad, man. Looks like it's about to rain. Temperatures hopefully are going to be cooling off. It's been in the upper 80s, so we're hoping for something a little bit cooler. It's supposed to be a high of 55 on Monday, so looking forward to that.
Okay, so it's cooling down a little bit. It's a breath of fresh air.
Yeah, 100%, man. It's been too hot out here far too long.
Yeah. Oh, dude, I bet. My God. All right, let's see. After they started looking good in the second half. Yep, we'll talk about it. When they win, it's good. Yep, George, it's been a couple days of warmth actually up here. Don't expect it to even, I don't know. Like I don't know what's up with it. It's weird. Like it's been pretty cool and chilly, and then two straight days it's been kind of warm. I don't freaking know. High in 71 in Kansas. There you go. Glad you're enjoying it down there. But Daniel, we got a handful of things to talk about today. We're going to be talking about the Steelers win on Sunday. Steelers Freak, what's up, man? Appreciate you tuning in. Good to see you again. We'll be talking about the win on Sunday. We'll be talking about that, different things that happened during the game. Be talking about this game on Sunday against Jacksonville, which is going to be a test for this team. So we'll start off with the win, guys. We'll start off with the win over the Rams. The Rams were favored this game. I picked the Rams to win. Jennifer, hello. Appreciate you tuning in. I picked the Rams to win, and the reason why, of course, I don't want them to win. I picked them to win just because I really like their I like Sean McVay a lot, and I like what some of the guys on their offense can do, especially against our secondary that's been struggling really throughout the year. One guy, Puka Nacua, he ate us alive. Cooper Kupp was kind of maintained. He dropped a few passes as well. But really overall, I'm gonna say for myself, and Daniel, maybe you feel different. Honestly, I feel like after this game, of course, the first half offense was frustrating. They couldn't really get anything going on, or really get going the first half. Nothing new there, but really overall as a whole in the game, I honestly enjoyed the game. I thought this was one of their better games of the season. I think this was something that we also have seen over the handful of years struggle winning on the West Coast. And this year they are 2-0 on the West Coast. And I honestly can't believe my eyes on that. They have a track record of struggling on West Coast teams, whether it's the Raiders, whether it's the Chargers, whether it's the Rams, even the Niners. Just it doesn't matter who they play. It's just that West Coast time frame out there in California has been an issue for the team over the years. So I'm surprised that they defeated both teams. But to me, this felt like a feel-good win. And I don't care what people can say. People can say all they want about that the Steelers were gifted a win. I don't understand how they were gifted a win when they were leading. Even if the officials did not give the Steelers the first down in the game, the Steelers were leading at that point. It's not that the Steelers were down and kicked a field goal and won the game that way. The
Right.
defense was playing really well all throughout the game for the most part. And if they did not get it, the Rams would have got one more shot. But I think I would have had some faith in our defense to be able to hold them from scoring a touchdown. I really do.
Mm-hmm.
As that how much that game went, I think I would have had faith in them. So the narrative, anybody out there, the narrative that the Steelers were gifted a win, that doesn't even make any sense to me. But I enjoyed this game as a whole. And offensively, we'll talk about it. But I cannot believe my eyes. We saw back-to-back touchdown drives. And then we saw a drive that they were able to get a couple first downs and then get that one that they gave Kenny on the sneak and end the game. So really, that was really 3 straight drives of productive offense. And it was really something really nice to see, something we haven't seen all year in the sense of being able to have multiple drives consistently like that turn into scoring points. But overall, I enjoyed the game. I thought the game was fun as a whole. We'll get more in depth on it. Daniel, how do you feel about the game? Do you share the same feelings I have about it? Do you share a little different feeling about it? What do you think?
I think that this game was encouraging. I felt
Mhm.
that even watching the game, that the offense was looking a little bit better. The decision making by the quarterback was better. I think he needed to work on a little bit of the minor details, and I think those things throughout the game got worked on and got dealt with, and the result was a fourth quarter that ended up being electric in my opinion.
Yeah.
And it's kind of, is it a turning point? Is this the standard? You know what I'm saying? And I think it should be. I think that we should look at this team and expect maybe not 24 points or 21 points every quarter, but multiple touchdowns a half, I think, or multiple scoring drives a half should be something that is expected. You know what I'm saying? I mean, having a touchdown, 2 touchdowns in a game, a couple field goals, something like that. That's getting to 24 points is basically where you need to get to. And I think that the average right now for the league is around 24 points. So, just getting there, with the defense that the Pittsburgh Steelers have and what they showcased in the fourth quarter and in the second half, I think is something promising. I think there's still some concerns on both sides of the ball. Offensively, I think there's probably, the biggest concern is just, the first half stuff, right? Now, I went back, I watched the film on it. The second drive, there was a long, deep pass to George Pickens that just went out of bounds. If that ball was, I don't know, a foot more to the right or to the left, George comes down inside, with his feet in bounds. If it's a couple feet in, he's probably going for 6. He beat his guy. And, those timing things and that chemistry is still building. This was Deontay Johnson's first game back, and I thought he played well. I thought that the offense looked better with him out there as well, forcing the defenses to be honest. So, overall, I was very impressed. In the second half, well, I'll tell you this. This is a pretty interesting stat. Did you know that Matthew Stafford didn't make a single completion in the fourth quarter?
I did not see that stat, no.
Yeah, he didn't have a single completion in the fourth quarter.
Yeah.
By then, Joey Porter Jr. was, taking over. And from the sounds of it, he's going to be the starter moving on and be the primary guy. Jeez. Yeah, I think that's what Tomlin alluded to. So,
well, that's interesting nonetheless. Do you think that this team could have scored more if they didn't shoot themselves in the foot for those extra couple red zone opportunities they probably were going to have? The one where Pickens had the blindside block that took them back and they had to punt. And then there was another drive that they got going where DJ had a flag and it set them back and stuff. Do you think they could have scored a few more?
I think they could have. I mean, especially on the one where George Pickens had the crackback block. That one ended up going for a field goal. That would have been first and goal with inside of the 10. Right. So,
yeah,
I think that one was huge. And the way that the Steelers were operating in the red zone, that game going 3 for 3 for TDs, you can only assume that they probably would have punched it in as well.
Yeah. Steeler fan, what's up? You're definitely everybody's favorite in this chat. Good to see you.
100%. My favorite.
Yeah, it was it was a breath of fresh air offensively in the second half. Like I know the TJ Watt pick helped a lot, obviously keeping them inside that 10-yard line to score. But there were just a couple things where they could have had something going, but there's just too many times where they stall their own drives through penalties, through false starts, through guys that can't really control their emotions, lack of execution that's happened over the season, where they might be able to pick up a couple first downs, be like, all right, we're rolling, and then Kenny gets sacked, or the whole story. But I definitely think that they could have been able to score a little bit more points if they didn't do those things. But for the second half offense, it's just kind of something where you still have to take with a grain of salt. It's something that is encouraging. It's something that we've wanted to see them be able to have consistent drives up the field that either end in points, or especially in late games where you're able to milk clock. And they were able to do that. And that's something that hopefully they can, as we're in the halfway point of the season here, hopefully that's something that they can start to master together more and more, with Johnson being back healthy, and maybe even once Pat Freiermuth comes back. We'll have to wait and see. But definitely encouraging. It was good to see them finally get a couple rushing touchdowns. Warren and Najee were way overdue for that. So that was really good to see. So nonetheless, like I think that it was in game as a whole, defensively, they did kind of what we talked about, where in terms of getting to Matthew Stafford and getting him to make a couple bad decisions, being able to get him outside the pocket. Now, he had that one lucky touchdown to Tutu Atwell. That was supposed to go to Cooper Kupp, where he bailed outside the pocket and just launched that sucker down the field, and Atwell just came out of nowhere and grabbed that play. That was not even an intention. He just happened to be there and was able to pick the ball in midair and be able to score it. So that was kind of something that was just all luck. But
wasn't there a questionable passing personal foul on the quarterback play on one of their touchdown drives as well? I think it was a third down or something.
Maybe somebody in the chat.
I know that there was on one of their touchdown drives. I could have swore it was a Keanu Benton. Hit on the quarterback.
It sounds right. It sounds right that happened. I'm trying to just remember the play.
And then I remember a 3rd and 4 also, where TJ Watt lined up off sides, and they would have gotten off on that play as well.
Right.
They didn't make
the
the first down.
zone crap.
Right. He was lined up. So, I mean, we can do this what if crap and look at every single, play and situation and say, hey, remember that play? This doesn't happen or that doesn't happen. And at the end of the day, it did. And the Steelers put themselves in a position to burn down the clock and, burn down the end of the game, which I thought was impressive, to have to close out the game with 5 minutes left in the quarter and having scored 2 touchdowns in that quarter already.
Yeah.
It was was impressive. And, that's another drive that could have ended up with points had it not been, for the fact that they just wanted to kill the clock.
Right. No, definitely could have. They had something going there, but then they just we're just going to do what we got to do to get out of here. But I liked what we saw from in terms of getting Stafford shaken up a little bit, where he was prone to make a couple mistakes, where he was able to be off with his throws. That's something that throughout his career that has been something that's kind of hindered him. He's been somebody that's turned over the ball a lot through his career. He's always been a good quarterback, but since the fact that we have the type of pass rush that we have, it was something that they definitely had to execute to be able to try to get something to get him off. And they would do that, and especially in the fourth quarter, that they were able to. Mm-hmm. Obviously, the play right after halftime, first pass. So it's one of those things where I think overall it was good performance. There were obviously issues in the first half where Levi Wallace, Pat Pete, guys like that were giving up a lot of yards. Nakua was just all over the place. They were giving up a lot of middle of the field plays. But still, being able to hold a Rams team who I think is pretty good on offense to 17 points, I think that you'll take that as a defense any day of the week.
Yeah.
So coming out of the game. Yeah, go ahead.
Oh, go ahead. No. So I was talking with Shannon White on The Hangover yesterday from Still Curtain Network, where I host that show on Mondays, and myself and Shannon White, and we're discussing TJ Watt. What did you think about his performance outside of the interception?
I think he would have made a little bit more of an impact. Like I think that there were a couple holding calls there that were missed, and I think you can look back at a couple of those where he's freaking wrapped around the neck and everything like that. But it wasn't one of those like type games that he's had before where he was majorly impactful in all these type of ways. But I think that in terms of him being able to get a little bit, like, the focus is always on him, but I think that he, like you said, other than the pick, like he didn't fill up the stat sheet, but I think that he was there. Like when you have a guy like that, even if he's not filling up the stat sheet on a certain game, he's not getting the sacks or, things like that. I think he's still at 8 right now, which I'm pretty sure still leads the league. The fact that he's still such an intention maker, that opened up the hole for a guy a little bit like a Highsmith who got Stafford out of the pocket a couple times, opened up an opportunity for, I know he wasn't in the game when Nick Herbig was in the game, but he still got a sack. It opens up for guys like Liao to be able to be a little bit more impactful. So he wasn't really involved in that type of way, but I think that he did enough that helped our defense out for sure. Because there were some plays where he was able to impact Stafford being able to have to move out a little bit.
Right. And I'm not saying that he wasn't impactful or that he was disappeared for no reason. He showed up on the injury report on Thursday, I believe. Okay. I believe that he showed up on the injury report with a heel injury, coming on Thursday. And he said it was no big deal. He was going to play. And I was watching back some of the film and stuff, and he got blocked by a receiver one-on-one. And I was like, man, that doesn't seem like TJ. And then he was moving all over the field. He was moving onto the right side, onto the left side. We're thinking maybe there's something more to that heel injury. And if he's switching sides, it could be because it's his get off, leg. And, if he has like maybe plantar fasciitis or maybe something with his heel, like tendonitis in the Achilles. Those are things that, will definitely hinder your get off. And so I was wondering if that might be the case.
That's the point.
Because like I said, he did show up on Thursday in the injury report. I wonder if he'll be showing up this week as far as the injury report goes.
Yeah. Yeah. No, that's a good point. Something to keep an eye out for. Because I noticed too that they didn't have him lined up nearly because he's every time he's on the field, like he's usually lined up where he usually is. But I noticed that too, that you bring that up, that he was in a couple different places at different points in the game. And maybe that was, like you said, something to take a little bit off of him to be able to try to not like where he's not constantly like he's not constantly having pressure on if his heel's like bothering him that much, like maybe not to get pressure on that foot as much. I don't know.
Yeah.
But as you bring that up, I did notice that actually. So yeah, it's something to kind of keep it out for. I'm not too concerned about it. I think that the fact that long as he's playing, he's going to be impactful nonetheless, but I'm not too concerned about it. We'll see as we're going into Thursday tomorrow. We know Friday is the most important. Speaking of that, Daniel, speaking of an injury report, Cameron Hayward was working a little bit. Is he going to be back this Sunday or what?
Well, they have only 52 people on the active roster, or 52 players. I think they have one open left. Is it going to be for Cam? Is it going to be for Anthony McFarland? I don't know. But, I saw him running and stuff like that. I suspect that first and foremost, I think they need to designate him to return from IR and put him on the 21-day practice window. And I think once they do that, we're probably looking a game after that. I am probably thinking the game after the Titans, after the little mini bye that they have, is probably when he's going to be coming back. I wouldn't put him out there this week and then expect him to play Thursday night as well. 2 games short back to back, coming off of a groin injury. So I honestly probably would hold him off of this game. But interesting thing as well, when it comes to the defensive line, Isaiah Loudermilk didn't get a snap this past game.
Okay. I didn't even see him out there. And I haven't even put a thought about him, but since you say that, yeah.
Yeah, he didn't register a single defensive snap.
See you later.
I think he's going to be he's on his way out.
Yeah, it's just how it is, dude. It's just the way it is. There's nothing anybody can do about it. So he just I don't know. It's some of those things like even if there's people out there that like a certain guy, and it goes for every team, but these guys see what happened behind closed doors. They see if certain now it doesn't mean we have to agree with certain things, such as the Joey Porter stuff, right? Or Keanu Benton getting maps earlier on when the season started, different crap like that. But when it's just more like depth guys, I mean, what can you do? Just see you later. Best of luck. At the end of the day, there's really nothing else to it. Who's somebody that I haven't really picked up on as much, and maybe I'm just not really paying enough attention. Has Elandon Roberts really been involved as much? Like, I feel like that I don't really hear his name a whole lot. And I don't know if I'm just missing him, if I'm not paying enough attention. I feel like other than the beginning of the year, I have not really seen much of him.
I think you're right. I feel
like I see more Quan Alexander out there. Yeah.
Yeah. And at this point, given what, it's a small sample, but given what we've seen, I don't think you can take Quan Alexander off the field.
You can't.
I think he's been just as good, if not better, than Cole Holcomb.
I agree. I think he's been better.
Yeah, I think he brings more physicality. And so I think it's just more of a maybe perhaps opportunity type of thing. Maybe once we see, some more run dominant type of teams, then we'll probably see him come back out there. But
see that I haven't seen him against Tennessee, probably.
But who surprised me this week as far as not being noticed or anything is Darnell Washington.
Yeah.
He was the starting tight end this weekend. And I specifically saw, Connor Hayward out there, not just in passing game, but being a part of the design of the play and even his blocking. Man, I don't remember there's a handful of plays I remember Darnell Washington being out there, but when he comes in the game, it's a running play. I don't know if maybe he's gotten slower or something. I know that there was a concern coming in from the in the combine that his knees were swelling. Somebody of that height and stature, that's usually a situation that occurs. And I don't know, maybe that's the case now. His knees are swelling, and I don't know. It's a little bit disappointing though. And then with Pat Freiermuth heading off to the IR, I mean, it's going to be the Connor Hayward show then. How comfortable are you with Connor Hayward, getting the load of maybe perhaps the first team tight end looks?
Yeah, it's a good question. You bring up a good point with Darnell Washington. Every time we see him out there, we never see anything really designed for him. It's always in a run play. The comfortability factor with Connor Hayward, I think he can make plays. I think he has decent hands. I don't think I feel comfortable out with him taking first tight end snaps every single time. If Pat Freiermuth's not going to come back at any, I know they put him on IR and he's going to be out in a few weeks, but I would be okay. Maybe there's another option out there that they if you're not going to utilize Darnell Washington in a passing type way, I would be okay if they want to bring somebody else in that can maybe that they can kind of go back and forth with him and Connor Hayward, stuff like that. Because I still don't think Connor Hayward's a full-on tight end. I think there's certain situations to use a guy like that. But Freiermuth, he's going to be out another 3 to 4 weeks, however long it's going to be. I'm not opposed to that. I think that's something I would rather see rather than Connor Hayward just taking the full-on snaps. They probably won't do anything with it. I don't know. I know they have Rodney Williams, but again, with him, they haven't really given him opportunity to be able to maybe see a target or two. So I don't know. I wouldn't be opposed to it if they want to acquire tight end, maybe like a Nick Vannett type situation back in 2019 when they advanced McDonald and he was a little banged up and they brought him in just to kind of be a guy maybe to see 2-3 targets a game. I don't know. Could be something like that. What about you? Do you think Connor Hayward can really take that role on? Or I like him sporadically. I think sporadically in different things that he's fine to utilize. Maybe he just needs more time with it, and then like you'll start, and then as he gets that chance, and then maybe he thrives in that. You're like, okay. I don't know. Maybe it's one of those things.
His size is just going to be always the concern. His height more than anything. For being a NFL number 1 tight end, I don't think he's going to be that guy. I think he'll get a lot of snaps, and depending on situations, he can end up getting the bulk, of the snaps. But I don't think he's going to be your guy that you want out there 100% of the time, especially if you're trying to go heavy or you're going, where you're depending on him to block. That's been his Achilles heel, so to speak. But I got a question for you. So what are your thoughts going to be, and or what does it say for the other tight ends if Rodney Williams is the first tight end to get a TD?
It definitely wouldn't be something I'd expected. But if you would have asked me that when the season started, I would have said, dude, all 3 guys ahead of him are going to score before that guy does.
Yeah.
But it might be a reality, Daniel. It might be a reality where he ends up being the first one.
Yeah, I think it could be, man. I mean, he's the least person you would expect him to throw the ball to.
Yeah. Hey, if you have a shot, if you have a chance, make the most of it, man. You never know. We have, where was it? Highlighted it. Jared Devil says wanted to see Washington with targets in the red zone. Maybe he'll be used more against the Jags, being 30th against tight ends. Maybe that's something they exploit if they don't really do a good job at handling tight ends, or maybe a little bit of the middle of the field action. Maybe that's something they could exploit. Maybe there might be that one play that they give Darnell Washington, possibly.
Well, not every time, I shouldn't say that, but there's been a handful of times where they go over the middle of the field to the tight end. And there's a specific play where it works, which is where the tight end just kind of sits in the zone and is just kind of sitting there. And then there's a play where the tight end is running either like a post or, going up the seam, and then, small skinny post towards the center of the field. Yeah. And in the first game, I think it was passed to Connor Hayward, and that was picked off. And in this last game, I mean, it could have easily been picked off by the middle linebacker again. And I didn't really like the design of that play. If that's the look you're going, if that's the progression, if that's number 1, it doesn't make sense, because you have 2 receivers running into that same area, which is bringing in the middle linebacker and 2 defenders in that area. So you have 3 defenders in that small area to 2 receivers, and that ball almost got picked. I'm not sure if his progression was where he was supposed to go, or if that's where he thought he was supposed to go. If that was his decision, then that's a big question. But maybe those things are kind of preventing them from throwing it to the tight end. Is half the time it's either picked or almost picked, and the only time it does work, or it seemed to have worked, is when tight ends are just sitting in the zone doing a curl back or a comeback. Mm-hmm. Those are the only plays that I have seen that have been successful.
Yeah. Well, it's a good conversation to kind of bring up for a split second, because they need to do something with their tight end. I think that it's not good to just ignore it the way they have, mm-hmm. and to not have it existent in any kind of way. Maybe they're taking it by the week. Maybe this week, maybe that this will be the, how many weeks is going to be without Freiermuth? 3 or 4 now? It's going to be the 3rd week without him, or 4th week?
I think it's like the 3rd game, but it would have been the 4th due to the bye week. Okay. You get what I'm saying? So, yeah, and then he's going to be out another probably 3 weeks. So, yeah, he's missing a big.
Do you have any concern with him right now?
With Pat? Not really. I think he tried to get back a little too early, and he re-aggravated it. Probably should have held off another week or so before trying to get back so soon. But he's a competitor, and I get it. His pass blocking, or his blocking period, not pass blocking, his run blocking, everything blocking is just kind of horrendous, to be honest with you.
Yeah.
I'd seen him play the first game where he whiffed on the edge, and Calvin Austin just got killed. I pointed that out. I was like, man, that's a horrible block. And then against the Raiders, he just kind of laid on the floor. It didn't make any sense.
Yeah.
And, I think that his blocking is not there. I think he's a great route runner for a tight end. I think he has pretty decent hands. I don't think there was a misconception about Pat Fryermuth coming in that throwing the ball and he'll catches everything in the red zone. I think was is what everybody was saying about him, or what he was claiming, that you throw it to me in the red zone, I'll catch it. And that first year it kind of seemed like that, with Ben. He had that one crazy catch at the back of the end zone his rookie year, where against the Cleveland Browns, where it was kind of bobbling up in the air. He caught it and got his feet in bounds. And I thought, this guy could be pretty good, but honestly, I think he's just been kind of middle of the pack tight end since.
Yeah.
What are your thoughts on him?
Yeah. I like him. Like, I think that he brings a good element offensively. I think there's a little bit of injury there that, I'm not that he's missed a lot of games in his career. This is kind of really the first injury he's had where he's missed multiple games like this. But it's those little nagging injuries that he's had. It's those bang up injuries that he gets as the game goes on, that if that kind of builds up over time could lead to longer injuries. Not saying this one is a result of that, but he gets banged up a bit, not where he misses a lot of time, but where he might have to come out of a game or is done for the day, stuff like that. I still like him. I think that if he's able to come back toward that last stretch of the season, can be obviously a beneficial thing. Steelers Freak says, for Kelsey and Kittle, he isn't. Yeah, I hope nobody really had those expectations thinking that he was going to be a guy like that. I think he's right around where Dallas Goedert, kind of that type of realm, is at a little bit. Not saying that they're similar players, not comparing in terms of just maybe where you have them. Like, other than Travis Kelce, it's kind of a big drop off with tight ends. I feel like tight ends over the years has just always been really thin. You have like two really good guys, and then you have guys that are kind of just decent. And it's kind of where he's at, which is okay. I think with tight end doesn't always have to be your primary offensive weapon, but I think if he can come back healthy toward the final set of games of the year, it's definitely something that, especially if this team's in that spot of making a run, obviously that's fantastic. But not even close to Heath. Yeah, he's man, we have not been able. That's something too that if you think about it, that they have just not been. After Heath Miller, Ladarius Green was a mess, and they had Xavier Grimble. Jesse James was decent for a little bit. Like, he wasn't that good, but in terms of how they were able to scheme him open, he was able to be a little. He made some plays and stuff. But they haven't, since him, they haven't been able to have that really answer at tight end. I think a lot of people kind of hope maybe that was Pat. I think it still can be Pat. He's just got to stay a little healthier, and they got to be able to utilize him probably a little bit better, because even the first few games of the year, he wasn't really too much of a factor. But speaking on offense, we'll finish up this kind of really talk about this game, and we'll go into kind of any news this week, or even getting ready for next Sunday. But with the offense, it was kind of a lot of the same old. How'd you feel about Dan Moore starting on Sunday? Because a lot of people wanted Broderick Jones. We all probably figured once we saw Dan Moore was practicing with the ones, it was going to be him again. I wanted Broderick to start. I feel like with a game and trading up for a guy like that, he should start. Dan Moore, he'll have some good here, and then he'll have a lot of bad. For me, I know Broderick's only 21, and I know that he's going to be the starting left tackle for the future, but coming off a good performance the way he did in his first start, I think that's something you got to keep going with a rookie for. That's just my opinion, and continue to settle him in. Dan Moore didn't hurt the offensive line this weekend, but to me, if you're going to keep starting him, there's going to be games where he does. And that's just the reality of it. It's just who he is as a player. You're going to get a little bit of good. You're going to get a handful of bad. How'd you feel about him starting? Were you okay with that? Do you want Broderick Jones? Do you think Broderick Jones will start again at some point this year, or is his season done?
Well, I don't know if he's going to play again this year or not. In left tackle, Dan Moore didn't do anything to lose the job. Now, going into this game, I thought that for sure Broderick Jones should have been playing. I still think that should have been the case. I don't think that Dan Moore did anything to lose his job or anything like that, but he didn't wow anybody either. I feel that Broderick Jones would have done just as good of a job, if not slightly better. I'm not going to say that Broderick Jones at this point in his career is that much better than Dan Moore, but I think that they're pretty close. And for him having, less experience, less time with the team, him being 21 years old, I believe, that plays a role in that. Where do you want to continue to build on that? And to do so, you got to put him back out there. You got to let him play. I mean, his demeanor this entire week, he looked like, somebody stole his cat or something. He was upset. And, I don't know if that's good for his confidence to start him and have him play well enough to be the starter. The expectation is he's a starter, and then you pull him back out. I don't know. I don't know if that's better for his confidence, if that's better than if you throw him out there and let's just say somebody, he gets a welcome to the NFL moment. I think that's a learning experience, because at the end of the day, all of these players are going to get, a welcome to the NFL moment sooner or later. Let's try to get that taken care of before it's too late, so to speak. But I have one last question before we move on to the next game. What were your thoughts on Kenny Pickett as a passer and decision maker in totality throughout the game?
Mm-hmm. Other than the one thing that where he threw over the middle field to Connor Hayward, almost got picked off. He didn't throw any passes that were turnover worthy throws. I think that he really, when you look at the first half, it wasn't productive. They only got a field goal. But I thought that they had a couple times where a drive could have went. Again, they shot themselves in the foot. They found themselves in 3rd and long, right? Kenny got sacked, stuff like that. But I thought in terms of decision making, I thought he did fine. I think in the first half, he had some good things to get a drive going, but again, they stalled it. Throughout the game, though, I think that he made some nice throws to George Pickens. I think that he did a really good job in the fourth quarter, as we've seen so far in his young career, being able to be poised, being able to make big NFL type throws in different points of a close game, different points of a really just like we need to score, and being able to make plays like that, finding George Pickens, finding Deontay Johnson down the field, and Deontay Johnson being able to get yards after the catch. So to me, I think that he played. Stat sheet wasn't crazy or anything, but I think in terms of efficiency, I think in terms of protecting the ball, I think in terms of keeping the team in the game to be able to win, being able to make the plays in the second half to get the team ahead, being able to make the plays in those back-to-back drives that he did, I was pleased with it. I was. And I hope that thing that dude, it's funny. It's like, why in the fourth quarter, why can't we just spread a little bit of it out in each quarter? Yeah, it's always like toward the end of the game, end of the third, end of the fourth, we finally find a groove on offense. But the first 2 quarters, at least, it's just non-existent. And I'm not placing the blame on any single individual, but I wish that we would just be able to see that more spread out. And maybe we will. Maybe we will as the season goes on, as we're at that halfway point. Maybe we'll see a little bit more seasoning in the first and second quarters, in the first half of games, and we're not trying to come back at the end and stuff. But overall, for his performance, I was pleased with it. Yes, the first half was boring. Yes, the first half was lame. It felt like a same old thing. But I think they were drive killers in the first half, and coulda, woulda, shoulda. We can all kind of sit and think about maybe what could have happened if those didn't happen. but I think he was efficient. I think he made some big throws in the second half. I think he turned up the tempo. I liked what I saw. His connection with Pickens, getting Johnson involved a little bit. I was pleased with it.
Did he create any confidence? Maybe not so much confidence, but do you think that did he give you more confidence that he could be the guy? Did he wow you at any point? Like, is there anything that said that we should not look at quarterback in the future based on what he did?
Yeah, no, that's a good question, and it's fair to evaluate in his throughout his second season, not just at the end of the second season, but even just throughout it. I think the main thing, Daniel, that sticks out to me is him being able to win games, him being able to make the big throws, him being able to really show up when it matters at the end. A lot of times over the years, we've seen young quarterbacks be in situations where they're down in fourth quarters, and they shrink. They're not able to make the plays. The moment's a little too big. I don't think the moment's too big for him. And I think that's something that I know there's a lot of frustration. There's been a lot of frustration offensively last year and this year. But I think that's one thing. To me, that's the biggest thing I take away from what I've seen so far in his career is that he's showing up when it matters. He's making big plays, big NFL plays when it matters to win these football games. And nobody's denied his hard work. Nobody's denied his demeanor. Nobody's denied his poise as a quarterback. But in terms of when the plays are on the field, the fourth quarter, he shows up. I know the rest of the game's frustrating. I know that he still can kind of find situations where he throws bad balls or where bad decision-making. We know the pocket presence problem is something that needs to keep getting better. We know the issue in the sense of when the Rams, there was at least 2 or 3 times where they sent that extra rusher. They didn't audible another guy over to block it. That's more on the court. Those are things that he needs to pick up. But the thing is, those are things that he can pick up. Those aren't things that he can't. It's hard when you have a quarterback that is limited to things that he can't overcome. Those type of things, reading zone defenses, picking up different things the defense is showing, not rolling into sacks, stuff like that. Those things a quarterback can get better at, which is good news. But to answer your question, I'm not going to say that it's given me the feeling that like, okay, like I'm able to sit here and say that he's our quarterback of the future, but it does give me confidence in the sense of that, okay, he can play at this level, and it gives me confidence, okay, he can show up when it matters. But until really kind of maybe start to see some more marinate throughout the game, I'm still just staying humble about stuff. But I am going to say that I think that he has, from what we've seen, I think that he has ability to where he can raise his bar, if that makes sense. I never viewed him as somebody that was going to be an elite quarterback in this league ever since he got drafted. I never did. But what I did have confidence in is that he's somebody that still could be an above average quarterback in the league. Who knows when that would come to fruition, but I thought he was drafted probably in the right spot. He probably could have been in. And I think that ability is there where he can reach that. It's just a matter of how long will that take ultimately. But I think we all can sit here and say we all want to see more marinated throughout each game. We're seeing some more, not that we're going to see that we want to see a complete game every game, but just that we want to see a little bit more early on in the games. We want to see a little bit more in the second and third quarters, and not just in the fourth quarter, and not just a play here in the second quarter, right? Like not just the flashes anymore, right? We want to see a little bit more substance and stuff like that. But he has given me confidence where I think he can reach that bar. I just hope he can, if that makes sense. So I'm still reserved. I'm still going to stay humble about it, but I root for him. I support him. I like his demeanor. I think he's a confident guy. And I think in the fourth quarter, when you have a young quarterback like that, I don't think that's something you overlook.
Yeah, no, 100%.
Let me just put it that way.
And, for me to go into it real quick, I think he improved, throughout this game. I think I saw some things I liked. He was throwing some anticipatory throws better. He threw more accurate footballs. The one thing that concerns me about him, though, is he has to almost be perfect for him to get things going. There's the margin of error for Kenny Pickett is very low. He doesn't have the ability to come back from or this offense doesn't have the ability to come back from like huge, 3rd and 15, 3rd and 12, 3rd and 8. If they get a penalty or get behind the chains, it can be detrimental. So everything has to go perfect. Everything has to go perfect within the scheme. And I'm not sure if that's a successful formula long term.
Mm-hmm.
Like I said, I thought he did well. I saw some encouraging things. I also saw some things that I don't know if they're never going to be fixed. Like, for instance, there was a pass to Deontay Johnson to the outside, and I think it ended up turning into like third or 1st and 10 at the 13 or 11. And it was just an out pattern, and he threw it from the opposite end of the hash mark. And that ball just took freaking forever to get there. And it was 11 yards of, down the field, but it was obviously across the field.
Yeah.
And those things, he's in SoFi Stadium. The weather's perfect in there. It's coming back to Pittsburgh. It's not going to be perfect anymore. And, I've noticed that the games that he's done well, this past one against the Raiders, that was indoors. I think those were his 2 best games this year, overall. And I think there's just a little bit of concern still. But I think he did do better this game. I don't think that I was wowed by any means. Like, all right, hey, quarterback is solidified. We don't need to look at that anymore.
Oh, yeah.
I don't think,
that
didn't come across my mind at all.
Yeah.
My thoughts were, all right, if we can see more consistent second half Kenny Pickett in the next couple of games, then maybe perhaps, or at least in this game, then maybe perhaps they'll make a move. And what I'm referring to is the trade deadline that's coming up. And a lot of folks are like, hey, give up something and go get Patrick Surtain, go give up something and go give up somebody else, right? And for me, I think that you make that kind of move right now if you feel that you're, your Super Bowl window is either this year or next year. And if you don't have a quarterback, you don't have a window.
Right.
And that's just the thing in today's age.
So
I think they're wanting to see more consistent stuff out of Kenny Pickett before they're willing to mortgage the future for other positions that are just going to end up being, you're still looking for your guy, at the helm.
That's a good point.
As far as your fourth quarter stuff, I truly think that that's a huge factor. Having a guy that has that it factor, the guy that can pull out a gritty win at the end of the game. But Tim Tebow had that too. It used to be called Tebow time. He couldn't do jack for 3 quarters, and then all of a sudden in the fourth quarter, everything just came together. And some teams got Tebowed, including the Pittsburgh Steelers in a playoff game.
Yeah,
and I'm not saying that Kenny Pickett is Tebow. I think Kenny Pickett throws a lot better of a ball and more accurate of a ball, but that is a very big similarity. You know what I'm saying?
I get what you're trying to say.
Yeah, those are the things that concern me. But overall, I thought he did better this game. I think this was probably his best game. And, I think in the first half, there were some things that kind of derailed the game. And, you had the 3rd down where he throws it out to George. He doesn't catch it. And then you have a couple of other plays where, the running back doesn't pick up their guy. And there's a holding penalty, like on Jaylen Warren, that kind of pushes back things. So, there were those type of penalties and plays, but, I just don't feel that we have a team that can come back from that. And until you do,
no, we don't. We don't right now.
Yeah, and until you do, I don't think you can consider yourself elite. But I do think that, the team is 4-2 somehow, some way. There's always those teams early on in the season that somehow go 5-0, 4-2, 4-1, and then end up 6 and something. But, I'm not saying that's the case with the Steelers. I think that this team's got a favorable schedule.
They do.
Right?
They do.
They got a favorable schedule. So I do think they're going to find themselves winning 9 to 10 games regardless, and probably find themselves potentially in a playoff game. I mean, there's a lot of teams that are playing like crap right now.
Yeah, it's bad, man. And I know that obviously Steeler fans, as wowed up as everybody gets, of course, that's your team. But it's not just the Steelers. There's a lot of bad football around this league right now. And outside of maybe 3 teams as a whole on the team, I think you just have a big pond of teams that are just there that can probably go head to head with each other. And then underneath them, you just have really your last tier. I really think that's what it is.
Like this game coming up against Jacksonville, I think that that's a good sign of 2 teams that are probably evenly matched.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. There's Jacksonville can be beat. Jacksonville's not a juggernaut or anything like that. They have Calvin Ridley, Christian Kirk is a really solid duo. Travis Etienne is the one that scares me the most because he can, because he's just a do-all type running back at the end of the day. Trevor Lawrence is a quarterback so far in his career that is very mistake prone and can make some key mistakes and key turnovers and stuff like that. He's also a quarterback that can look great as well, and I think he will keep climbing to that point. But that's really the main thing for that scares me the most against Jacksonville is Etienne. And we have had a hard time with running backs so far this year as well. So I feel like Etienne needs to ultimately be the focal point. Maybe let somebody like a Kirk or Calvin Ridley beat you. If you let one out of those 3 beat you, I'll take it. Don't let 2 out of 3. Don't let 3 out of 3 beat you. Even Evan Ingram can be a little bit of a problem in the middle of the field at their tight end spot. They have a pretty solid offense. Defensively, they have a couple guys there as well, but they're not a defense that you look at and is going to shut you down at the end of the day. They're a defense that gives up points. They're a defense, like Jared Devil says, they struggle a little bit in the middle of the field. They struggle against tight ends. Maybe they'll utilize something like that. I don't know. But it's a defense that can be beat. So Jacksonville has a good record right now as well, but another team as well coming down from the south to come up north. That is a factor. That is a factor as well. That's not something that's to be overlooked because that is when you look over time, teams that warm weather teams, and once they're in a little bit of a different element, there can be a couple mistakes that happen that alter the game. So this is a game the Steelers can win, but they have to get Lawrence, I feel like, in a place a little bit like Stafford. The good thing is Lawrence can't run all over the place like maybe some other quarterbacks can. But they need to get him in a point like Stafford. They get him a little shaken up. They get him in that type of mistake-prone territory for maybe 1 or 2 spots during the game, and you at least let one out of that 3-headed dragon beat you. Mm-hmm. That's it. So hopefully it's a good game. Hopefully it's not something that we see like we saw when Jacksonville was here in the playoffs. Just hypothetically speaking, hopefully it's not something like that. And Trevor Lawrence looks like Shaggy and Peppermint Patty.
That's what I was laughing.
Oh man. Man, that's funny. How much of an issue is TL's knee right now? I don't know. I haven't really read too much of him. I know he had that knee injury before the Thursday night game. They do have a little bit of a break, or they have had a little bit of a break coming into this game. So maybe his knee, I would imagine, might be a little bit better than what it is. But I haven't really read too much up on the injury thing. So you guys in the chat, what are your guys' thoughts about this game Sunday? You guys feel pretty confident about this game? You think it's a coin flip? You think maybe you don't have much confidence in the Steelers defense being able to stop what Jacksonville has on offense? I don't really know. But at the end of the day, the Steelers are 4-2. Somehow the AFC North continues to keep winning, which sucks. Browns were gifted a win by a mile. My God. Deshaun Watson's out again for them this week. They play Seattle. Cincinnati goes to San Francisco. So those are 2 games that are tough for them. Not sure who Baltimore plays or if they're on a bye this week. I didn't look at who's Baltimore playing or if they're off. I'm not quite sure. But the AFC North has some tough matchups. And I don't see all teams winning again this week. So if the Steelers can maybe try to take advantage of playing Jacksonville at home rather than down south, and maybe you have 1 or 2 teams in the North lose, that's a great factor. So I don't know.
The Ravens are at Arizona. playing the Cardinals.
Okay. So they'll probably win that one. They're indoors. They're playing a team that's gonna have a top 5 pick at the end of the day. Don't know if Kyler Murray will play that game. Who knows? But I don't know. Maybe the Cardinals could pull up an upset. I don't know. I think that offense might shot. Steelers drive us nuts for 3 quarters and win the 4th like they always do, fam. Yeah. So let's talk about this game, Daniel, before we wrap it up here. So like I said, Steelers are 4-2. They have found a couple ways to win the last 2 games, the Rams and the Ravens game. I feel like the Rams game was probably one of their better games they've played this year as a whole. Going into this one with Jacksonville, we talked a little bit of what Jacksonville had, maybe a little bit of concern. You confident about this game? You think this maybe might be that game that they lose and then they maybe go on a run with their upcoming schedule, or you think they keep the ball rolling?
Yeah, I think there's a good opportunity for them to do something in this game. Just like the West Coast, curse, so to speak, for the Pittsburgh Steelers the last couple of decades. I think that had more to do with Ben Roethlisberger, and just like the
somebody made a comment.
Jaguars,
I forget who it was that made that comment. Might have been Brian. I can't remember.
Yeah, I think it was more of a Ben thing, and I think that the Jacksonville Jaguars could also be a Ben thing. So, now that Kenny Pickett's at the helm, it's a new team, completely new everything. So maybe they'll get through it. My biggest concerns are obviously on the defensive side are going to be Travis Etienne and one of the receivers for Jacksonville, because apparently every game the running back has looked phenomenal of the opposing team, and one receiver looks like the next coming of AB against the Pittsburgh Steelers. And it's getting tiring, and it's sickening to this point. Now I know that Joey Porter Jr. is going to be starting, so hopefully that kind of puts an end to those days. But the rushing game is still going to be a huge concern, without Cam Hayward out there. The Jacksonville Jaguars come in with the team with the most interceptions. So then, normal teams would then, try to run the ball. But this is the Pittsburgh Steelers, so they're going to attack their strength by throwing the ball at them multiple times. Mark my words. They're going up against a team that is really good against the pass, and we're going to see more pass plays than we will see run plays.
Yeah. Sounds right.
So, in order for the Steelers to win, is they're basically going to have to run the ball and limit the turnovers, win the turnover game, run the ball, and don't let Travis Etienne beat you. The games where the Steelers have lost or should have lost, the running backs have been a huge influence on that game. In the games that the Steelers have won, the receivers had taken over, but the running backs, for the most part, have been contained. And, they had more of a bend but don't break, for the most part, type of defense, where they allow, like Puka, he ended up with a tremendous amount of yards, but did he get in the end zone?
Yeah. Right.
No. So, those type of things, I think that's where this defense is at. I think this is a good likelihood, good chance that this team's going to win. And I think we're going to see this team go to 5-2. Everybody's going to be shocked and be like, how is this team 5-2? It's just kind of like when this team went 11-0 a couple of years ago.
Right.
Nobody could believe it. And at that point, because of how weak their schedule was after a certain point, there was a conversation that the Steelers could have gone undefeated that year and be the worst undefeated team ever.
Yeah. Whatever
and
sense
I still
that
think they
even
would have. Right. And I still think they probably would have gotten knocked out in the first round, which would have been
probably would have
embarrassing. On its own. So, it is what it is. But, this game here, if this offense can take another step forward and, score some points in the first half and have a complete game, I think that's what they need to do. That's the next step. And until they do that, they're just going to be stagnant across the board. I did think they took a step this last game, by in the second half, putting up a couple of, multiple touchdowns, in a couple of quarters there and finishing out the game in the manner that they did. That was good. That was a step forward. Let's not hang here or take a step backwards. Yeah. You know what I'm saying? Let's take another step forward. And if the Steelers can do that, then, that's just going to build more confidence for this team, confidence for the players, confidence for the fans. Yeah. But before we go, I want to do the over and under stuff. And
Yeah.
as as usual, let's talk about the week before. So the first one was Kenny Pickett yards, which was 240. I said over, you said under, it was 230. So you got that one right.
Yep.
Kenny Pickett sacks, 1.5. He ended up getting sacked twice. We both went over. So we're good on that one. More rushing yards, Naj or Jalen. Naj, you had Naj, I had Jalen. The Deontay Johnson touchdowns was set at 0.5. He had none. You had under, I had over. So you pretty much got most of them right, man.
Hey, I'll take it.
Defensive sacks, 2.5. You went under. Where they had 2. I went over. Defensive turnovers, 1.5. We both went over. So I think that's the first one you got wrong. And then we went with the prediction, which the big one you got wrong. And
Yep. That's the money ball right there.
Yeah, that's the big one. You can get all the other ones right, but if you get the prediction on the score wrong, it's worthless.
Yeah. No, that's like a -5 right there.
Yeah, exactly. You had Rams, I had Steelers. Relatively, similar to what ended up being what the score was. I had 20-17. You had 20-16. So, we thought it was going to be a low-scoring game, pretty competitive, and go down to the wire, and which it sort of did. Now, let's talk about this upcoming game. Do a little bit of over-under before we head out.
Let's do it.
Kenny Pickett yards passing, 240. Over-under, what are you thinking?
Man, oh, man. I like the point that you brought up because about them throwing, like whenever you have a team that struggles against running backs, the Steelers tend to just pass the ball. Yeah. I'm gonna say, I'm still gonna go under.
You're going under.
Yeah.
All right.
That's one to think about.
It is. I'm going over just because I do think that this team
400 yards
making some strides. I wouldn't go that far. I do think that
I wish.
I would think, I wish too, but I'm thinking they're probably going to be around. I think they break 300 if that's any consolation.
Yeah. Oh my god.
Jeez. Yeah, that's true. Martavius Adams is playing well. So I'm going to go over. I think that he's going to hit the 245, 250 range. I do think over. Throwing touchdowns, 1.5 for Kenny Pickett, over under.
2 tutties, 2 touchdowns. Do I see 2 touchdowns? I'm gonna say under. I think that they're gonna. I think that they're gonna run them like once they're in the if however many times they find themselves in the inside the 10. I think they'll run. I'm gonna go under.
I put over, but I think you're going to be right. This team has a bad tendency of redoing what worked the previous week and hoping that it's going to work again. So I can see that being the case. But I went over. I already wrote down mine, so I'm going to stick with it.
Okay, going to stick with it.
Kenny Pickett ends up getting 2 TDs, whether they're
wouldn't that be something if he outperformed Trevor Lawrence?
That'd be great, man. I mean, he needs to because
it's a big. Game
up to this point. Yeah, I'm not sure. I don't think he's outperformed the quarterbacks. I mean, outside of the interceptions and stuff like that, but that's because this defense is just massive. They're just huge, especially when it comes to turnovers. But he needs to outperform the opposing quarterback at least a couple of times this season.
Yeah, I think it would make for a good conversation, just him outperforming a guy like Trevor Lawrence. So we'll see.
100%. Najee Harris rushing yards at 65.
I want to see him break 100, man, at least a couple times this year. I'm gonna stick with under though.
Yeah, I'm going over, but not by much. I don't think he breaks 100, but I do think he gets around the 70 range. He played mad last week. If he can continue that, I think that he can get up there. But they do switch quite a bit with him and Naj. I mean, with him and Jalen. So I wouldn't be surprised if it's under, but I do hope that he ends up surpassing.
It'd be nice. Like if he can get a nice few stretches of games, that'd be good for him.
Yeah, 100%. Deontay Johnson touchdowns, 0.5. You think he gets one this week?
Oh man, dude, his last touchdown was either the first or second to last game of 2021. It's insane to think about. I'm gonna say no. I'm gonna say he does not get one. I'm going under.
I am holding the faith. I talk a
Each
lot of crap
week,
about
you're
this
gonna pick
team.
the over.
I
Each
talk a lot
week.
of crap about this team, but at the end of the day, I really do think that there's a chance. There's a chance, right? I'm going over. I think he's on my fantasy team, so I need him to go over by more than one. By more than one. All right, let's jump over to the defensive side. The opposing wide receiver yards, 100 yards. Do you think the Steelers allow a 100-yard receiver this game?
Absolutely, they do. Absolutely, they do. I don't trust. I like what Joey Porter's done. I just when you got two guys like that, it's hard. I still don't trust if Levi Wallace plays, but even having Patrick Pearson still, and just really what he's shown, or whoever else you might slide on the outside other than Porter, I don't trust it. At least one. I think at least one of them.
Well, I'm going to say under. And the reason being is because the Steelers held Matthew Stafford to no completions throughout the fourth quarter. And, Joey Porter Jr. had a big part of that. I think that him being out there and there not being a lot of tape on him right now is going to be good for the Pittsburgh Steelers and for Joey Porter this game. I think that there's going to be eventually a time where he's going to have to overcome the tape. Everybody does. Once there's a point in your once there's a point in your career where, offenses have seen enough of his tape, his tendencies, his weaknesses, his strengths, and they start attacking those things, is when we're going to be able to tell how long he's going to be good for and how long his career will be. But right now, given the fact that they don't have much tape on him, I think they're going to attack him. They're probably going to attack him on one-on-one situations, which is probably his strength. I think he's going to end up doing all right. So I'm going with under, and sacks on Trevor Lawrence. Bar is set at 2.5.
I'm going to say over. I think the Steelers eat this weekend.
Really?
Yeah, I do.
Has he been sacked a lot? I haven't looked that up yet.
I haven't looked at his numbers in terms of his stats, but I think being back at home, possibly, like, I know Cam's probably not going to play, but I think being back at home and in such a big game like this for them, I have confidence in our pass rush. I do. I think that Terrell Austin likes to send the house a lot, and I feel like that's going to bite us in the ass at different points with ETN. But I'm going to go over. I have confidence in our pass rush. I think they'll hit at least 3.
Good deal. Good deal. I'm going to go under. I think something's up with TJ Watt. I think there's something up with, his heel, or maybe it's even that ligament in his finger that's bothering him still, and he's not gotten accustomed to playing with it. But I think there's something going on. The eye in the sky don't lie, and I've seen some pretty concerning stuff when it comes to, his get off isn't the same in this last game, and I'm a little bit concerned. So I'm gonna go ahead and say under for this game. I do think that it's not something that's going to affect him long term or throughout the entire season, but I think he's not himself right now, and I'm not sure how long that's going to be. Maybe the next week, maybe after the Thursday night game, having that little mini bye will get him back in. The TJ Watt that we know and love, but I think something's up, and I'm going to go ahead and go under on that one. But, he's probably going to surprise me and have 3 on his own. He's that kind of guy.
I don't think we've agreed on a pick yet.
No, actually, no, we haven't. Everything has been the opposite. Now let's go with
we'll see who ends up being right.
Let's go with the prediction. Who do you have winning this game, and what's the score?
Oh, man. I could see either way happening, where the Steelers defense balls out in the fourth quarter and we win by like 3 points. Or I could see it happening where we lose by like 7 to 10. I'm going to go Jacksonville. I'm scared of ETN. I don't have faith in still our secondary being able to take care of two really good wide receivers. Trevor Lawrence, I think, will not be like perfect. I think that the Steelers will get to him. I think that he could serve a mistake or two. But until our offense as well can kind of show that they can maybe keep up pace for a little bit more than just a half. Some of these games that just have good offenses where it's hard to kind of keep up, per se. Or if you find yourself down, we know this offense is hard to find themselves being able to get back and maybe a 10-point deficit, 13-point deficit. It's not easy for them right now. I could see either way happening. I'll go with Jacksonville, and I'm especially going to say Jacksonville because I've been picking against the Steelers lately, and they've been winning. So I'm going to, because I did pick the Raiders to win, and the Steelers won. I did pick the Ravens to win, and the Steelers won. I picked the Rams to win, and the Steelers won. So we're going to keep up with the theme for the sake of the greater good, and we're going to pick Jacksonville in a 24-18 win.
Good deal. Good deal. I like the score. I like the oddness of the score too.
Yeah.
So you said 24-18 Jags.
Yep.
All right. I got that written down. So we are opposite once again.
Yep. Not one same pick. I figured we would be.
Yeah, we're opposite yet once again. Did you know that the Pittsburgh Steelers are undefeated when they score over 10 points?
They're undefeated when they score over 10?
Yeah. The times that they have been the Steelers, they are undefeated when they score over 10 points, and I think they're going to get over 10 points. The times that they have lost, they scored. Yeah, for this year.
Wow.
Yeah, the times that they lost, I think they scored 6 in one, 7 in the other. So if they hit double digits, this team's winning.
Just score 10. Just score 10, man. 10-9 final. Points. A 10-9 final, maybe.
That's all you need to do. That's all you need to do is score 10 points, and the Steelers are going to win. I think they can get that done. I'm going to go ahead and say Steelers 24-20. And another game that's going to
point game again.
They get to 24. They get to 24. And
wow, Matt Canada extension.
I don't know about that, but maybe perhaps we see a little bit more reactions from him on the tube. I've never seen an offensive coordinator, on the screen on the TV as much as I've seen Matt Canada on the screen.
Yeah, he's shown at least 3 or 4 times a game.
That is insane. That is insane.
Yeah. Well, the networks know too just how freaking controversial this guy is. So they're probably just like, hey, we're gonna just let the fans take a look at this guy. Let them look at him. Let them look at him right in the eyes.
Yeah. So that's my score prediction. We'll see who's right after this upcoming game.
All right. Hey, I hope it's you. I hope that I get tail again. Let's see here. Jared Devil says 26-17 Jags. Afton says 21-20 Steelers, but might consider flipping it. I don't think Canada will stay. Yeah, I think he's gone regardless how the season goes. I don't think he's coming back. George says 27-24 Steelers. Okay. Hey, if they almost break that 30-point mark, I mean, that's awesome. Hopefully that they can do that. Do you think there's going to be something in this game, like a bold type thing that happens where maybe somebody you don't expect makes a crazy play, or somebody you don't expect gets a touchdown, or like something that usually does not happen with this team will happen? Or do you think it's just going to kind of be what we know? You think like anything crazy will happen?
I mean, score a touchdown in the first half sounds pretty crazy for this team right now. And
I mean, holy cow! I know.
I think there's a chance.
Moment.
I like Brian Brown scored too, 22-3 Steelers defense. I think there's a good possibility of Brian. That. You know what I'm saying? And as far as anything like special or unique, maybe there's a special teams play that happens. I can see that. A special teams play, maybe a trickery, fake punt, let Presley Harvin throw a 40-yard bomb, something like that.
That'd be pretty sick. I'm still waiting for that.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't know. It's something I know Jacksonville's favored, of course, but the Steelers can win this game. If the Steelers do win this game, they are in a great situation, not just being 5-2, but in terms of what they have coming up for themselves for the next stretch throughout November. So they would be looking listen, even if they lose and they sit at 4-3, I still think they're in a spot where they can find themselves hitting 6 wins before November's over.
Yeah. No, I agree.
Yeah. Hitting 6, maybe even 7 before the month's done. So that's definitely possible. Steelers 36-7, Steelers Mason with the win. Yeah. Hey, he was on TV. He was on TV during the game. He had the headset on and was talking to Kenny a little bit. So maybe
that's who's calling the plays.
Maybe Mason's a little more hands-on than we think.
That's who's calling the plays, apparently. I mean, we
Mason
figured
is the
it
OC,
out.
Man. Give him a shot. Give him a shot.
All righty, my man.
Yeah.
That has been a good one.
All right, guys. Yeah. Yep. We're getting into there, guys. We gave our predictions, talked a little bit in depth on the Steelers win this past Sunday. You guys gave us your predictions and your thoughts. We appreciate your guys' comments, different type of thoughts that you guys give us in the comments from this past game and even into this game, what you guys think might happen. A couple of questions you guys have. So we appreciate it. It's always good seeing you guys. For those who tuned in, who weren't in the chat, we appreciate you guys tuning in. Maybe hope to see you guys in the chat at some point. Claude, I appreciate it. Jared Devil, Afton, thank you guys. Everybody else, Brian and Steelers Freak, and who else we got in here? George, and you guys know who you are. Jennifer, everybody, Aquatic. So thank you guys. We will be back next Wednesday on Daniel's channel at State of the Steelers. Check out his breakdown of quarterback film from this past Sunday. He always gets a lot of views on that. A lot of positive comments he gets on those things. So he takes the time to do that, takes a lot of time to do that and put that together. So give that a look if you have not. Maybe if you guys can maybe see what Daniel's seeing, points out some different things that you might not have just seen in regular time. So it's always worth always worth a watch each and every week. But we'll be back on his channel, guys. So stay tuned on the notifications on when we go live. We'll see if the Steelers take the W, and hopefully Steelers are gonna be 5-2 going into Thursday night. So we'll see what happens. But other than that, we will see you guys next Wednesday.